Viewer discretion is advised.
This is a disaster. This is the city not working well together. This is the clergy being absent in all cases. There are no clergymen. Where the fuck is the clergy at? You know, they shoved the Bible down my throat as a young Catholic boy, and I wonder where the clergy's at in this situation. There are 17,000 well-cloistered clergymen in Western Washington alone, and there are 45,000 people. That means they get 3 apiece. That's pretty easy to handle. 3 people. 3 shit birds apiece. 3 shit birds apiece. That's what we get. What the fuck's our tax anyway? Come, take care of yourself.
Seattle.
Homelessness is increasing at an alarming rate. Cities like Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and New York have all been infected. On any given night, there could be 600,000 people homeless on the streets, under bridges, living in cars, from men and women, from children to veterans. 1/4 of homeless people are children. Domestic violence is the leading cause of homelessness among women. The government does not help as much as you think. Tens of thousands of veterans are homeless. Over 57,000 veterans are homeless each night, according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. In the last few years, millions have lost their homes. In 2008, over 5 million homes have been foreclosed. And today, cities are increasingly making homelessness as a crime. So we wanted to figure out, we got in contact with Mark Satterwhite, we packed up our bags and our camera crew, and we headed down to Seattle, Washington to see what we could find.
So homeless people have a challenge in that once they're on the street, even if they had a means to finding a place to live, they'd have to come up with a first and last and a damage deposit just for rent.
And a lot of them have been evicted before.
Exactly. And so they have bad credit situations, and they're challenged with being able to, once they're on the street until we break this system, until we find a way of getting them in a housing situation where they're not pressured to go find a job, and getting a counselor, from what I understand, that can help them get stable and get clean, and then have them feel like they can contribute to society, is what I'm hearing is a successful way of breaking this system. We're at St. John's United Lutheran Church in Seattle, Washington. Talk to Pastor Anna Ricci. He runs a soup kitchen.
Yeah, it smells
Right
good.
here. This is all donated food, volunteer work for the homeless.
Well, I'm hungry.
Hi.
Hello.
Are you filming?
Yes.
Could you please stop?
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
So we're number 2 in the nation in terms of homelessness.
I didn't realize that.
From what I understand, per capita. Yeah, we're number 2. And then talking with Pastor Anna Ricci, she shared with us that a lot of that is really systemic with regard to increased wealth. And the tie to that is that the wealthy are not giving back and helping out in areas that they can. And the money, when it is there, is being inappropriately spent. And it's not wisely spent. I mean, Thomas just said that there was a building that, how much were they going to put into it?
$36 million for 74 people.
$36 million for 70 people. How many?
74.
74 people. When you think about that, that's a $500,000 house per person.
Per person. For an apartment.
For an apartment.
That they pay $59 a month for.
How can anybody justify that?
Section 8 pays for the rest.
We're near Interstate 5 in Seattle. There's a small camp underneath one of the bridges in Seattle that we stopped by. We're checking to see if these people would be interested in explaining where they are, how they got here, and perhaps maybe we can find a way of giving them some directions in life.
I'm here. I took pain meds and relapsed. Started using heroin again after being sober for about 10 years, and blew about 40 grand, lost the truck. Ended out here in a tent with my girl out here. We decided to get sober because there's no way we're going to stay together using. We're smart enough to know that. So trying to get back to work. It's hard crawling out of the hole after you've lost so much. Yeah. Well, people relapse. I was sober 10 years and relapsed, so basically people need to step up. And I know it doesn't happen overnight. You need help, but whoever's asking for handouts, flying signs around here to get a job and work, just make excuses or whatever. But people are real snooty, pretty wealthy here in Seattle, and they just want stuff to go away. They keep chasing the homeless camps around from one spot to the other. It's like they want us to disappear, but we're not going to disappear. We're here. I mean, it is what it is. It's just part of the transition of mostly people are homeless because of some mental illness or drug addiction. Couldn't be anything else, or some kind of pain. That's all I got to say.
Okay, so we're visiting where there used to be a very large homeless camp here in Seattle. I've been here in the wintertime when there was probably 100 people, and it was a sanctioned camp. And the sanctioned camp recently has moved, but I've been here in the wintertime when it was pretty tough living conditions. It was probably 30 degrees at night, and people were making do with what they had. Here it is towards the end of summer. The weather's nice, but winter's not going to be too far away, and being in a wet climate like Seattle can be very miserable in the wintertime. I have a lot of empathy for them because I live in a good situation. I've got a house and a wife and a son, and we have food on our table. And to come over here whenever I can, I do what I can to support the community that are in need. I do two times a week. I do bread runs. There's a bakery not far from my house that has day-old breads, and I go by and pick up their day-olds and distribute them in places. And that's a small piece of what really needs to be done here in Seattle. Like how much better in their community, even if it was, or even an hour a week or 4 hours a month, just helping out. I just saw a 90-year-old lady in a soup kitchen helping prepare food for homeless people, and she does that every week. And she walks up the hill, that's a fairly steep hill, and goes and helps prepare food for people who are homelessness. And here she is, 90 years old, and she's not giving up. Why is the rest of society giving up on these people? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
We're in Seattle, Washington. We're looking at this homeless situation where we keep interviewing people that have the same problem. The same problem is relapse. Everybody's relapsing, and they're ending up in a lot of trouble. They're ending up in trouble with the police. They're ending up living outside, and they can't afford any justice in their lives. My dog and I were lied to by the VA, and we were told to go into a homeless shelter for a weekend, and we'd be in transitional housing within a week. We were homeless together for 10 months. In that time frame, I worked with all the agencies, and I found that the clergy was absent in all cases. We just met with the head of a Lutheran church, and she wouldn't be interviewed because it was too political. The Lutherans don't talk to the Presbyterians don't talk to the Catholics, they don't talk to the ecclesiastics. Nobody is speaking to anyone. The Mennonites are all of them. They're all on their own. There's not a Jew, a rabbi, or a minister in any of this process. So if all these people are lost souls, why don't they read the Bible themselves and get back to the work of, there's got to be something spiritual about this, because the spirit of our society is sick. It's like an organism that runs through all of us. If other people are suffering in our community, it makes us feel ill as well. So here in Seattle, we've got homeless tents everywhere in the whole city. They're absolutely everywhere. They keep getting swept, and all their stuff gets thrown away, including their documents, and then they have to start all over again. When does it end? If you lose your paperwork, and you lose your identification and you lose your stuff, then you've got to start all over again. So they're getting moved around all over the city and they have nowhere to go. I've been working with homeless entrepreneur in Barcelona, Spain since 2015. We're trying to come up with economic initiatives that will give them some income so that they can get by and get what they need for the day. Posto. We need to end homelessness in Seattle. So we're taking the Houston initiative and moving forward. And homeless initiative from homeless entrepreneur in Barcelona, Spain. There are a lot of projects around the world that are working better than what we've got going on in Seattle. The mayor is not paying attention. The people are too elitist, and they're a bunch of snobs. Seattle used to be the Emerald City of hospitality. Now it's filled with a bunch of rich snobs from Amazon that are Amazon Prime and not everybody's prime time on Amazon. So all these people are suffering because there's no place, you can't afford an apartment anymore. It's $1,500 a month for my apartment. We have to change the laws because the people that are running these slumlord agencies in a lot of these buildings are not allowing people in. So if you're homeless, they don't want you. If you're Section 8, they don't want you. So you've got nowhere to go, even if you do have a voucher or if you do have some support even from the Veterans Association. 50,000. Roughly 50,000. There's 17,000 well-cloistered clergymen. They could take 3 apiece and help them out. Yeah, but they won't go on film with us because it's too political. They're all working on their own mission and they all have their own budgets. That's why all of these religious agencies don't work together.